What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of that Dynasty show. We are back with one of our subscriber submission episodes where one of our Discord users has submitted their team to us. They wanted us to do a bit of a review, take a bit of an in-depth look at it. So, hey, that's what we're doing here today. Made a video out of it. But before we get into our Discord users team, Tyler, how we doing today, buddy?
I'm great. I got in 14,000 steps today. I'm in a good mood. The sun is shining, at least for now. It looks like dark clouds are rolling in, but I'm enjoying the sunshine while it lasts, my friend. How are you doing?
Dude, I'm doing great. Tomorrow is Friday. We're recording this on Thursday. We're probably posting this over the weekend. So hello from the past. But as of right now, tomorrow is Friday. Tomorrow's payday. And yeah, dude, we're just living our best lives over here. So excited to talk some football with you as always. And let's just dive right on into it. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And let's do this. All right. So this is Dave's team that he submitted. It is a one quarterback team, and he just sent it to us actually earlier today. We were going to do a subscriber submissions episode for our buddy Zach, who's been asking me to do it for a few weeks now. So Zach, sorry you've been delayed a little bit more. If you're watching this, I promise you're next. But Dave Doran, since you are a Discord member, you will take precedent over anyone else. So for future reference, if you want us to do this for your team, join our Discord. But let's get into those quarterbacks first. So first things first, you only have two quarterbacks. Good move, right? There is never a need to have more than two quarterbacks in a one QB league, especially if you have two guys like Trey Lance and Derek Carr. In my personal opinion, I mean, you're a subscriber, you're in our Discord, you know that I'm a big Derek Carr guy, right? So I love that pick. And Tyler and I have both come around more to Trey Lance over the last several weeks as well. So I think this is a really good 1-2 punch. I think you got a lot of safety, but also have some upside with Derek Carr. And then with Trey Lance, he's obviously a ceiling play. We don't know exactly what he's going to do in 2022, but if he hits a ceiling, he's going to be potentially a top 6, top 7 quarterback to have in dynasty format. So I think, honestly, this is as close to a perfect quarterback room as you can get without going after a guy like Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, and he got really good value on it. I can see here he got Trey Lance at like almost the 8th round. He got him in the end of the 7th, which I really like that. He's got the upside of like Lamar Jackson and guys like that, and the upside that Russell Wilson had like throughout his career, and Dak Prescott and all those guys. So yeah, I'm totally good with Trey Lance, and with that upside and the safety of Derek Carr being, we know he's going to at least be top 12. We expect him to be better with Devontae, but even at his floor of like what was he like 13th last year, 14th, right? But yeah, I'm totally good with both these guys. You got a solid room. You're either going to be dominating with Trey Lance or he's going to bust out, and you'll be just fine with Derek Carr in one quarterback league. So.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be this perfect 1-2 punch for sure. I mean, you go on a bye week, you're perfectly fine because Trey Lance is going to pick it up or Derek Carr is going to pick it up, whoever comes out and is your starting quarterback for the year. So I really like this. There has been very few one quarterback teams where I've looked at it and I'm like, oh man, like this is a good quarterback room. Because usually I don't really pay too much attention to quarterbacks in one QB, right? Like obviously if I can get a Josh Allen, if I can get a Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, I'm pretty pumped about that, but I don't really go out of my way to do it in one QB league. So in my opinion, this tandem right here, Trey Lance in the 7th, and then what was it, Derek Carr in the 11th, I think it was. That's pretty good. I have no problems with this whatsoever. I think he did a great job in the quarterback room. And I can't give you an A+ because you don't got Josh Allen, but I'm gonna give you an A for sure for this quarterback room.
In terms of value, though, like we have to think if he went out of his way to go draft Josh Allen in what, like the 3rd, 4th round, probably, like he would have been missing out on either DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, or who else? Antonio Gibson, who he ended up, with. Like, so he would have been missing out on one of those players. So when you look at the combinations of what he ended up getting, I mean, and the value, I like the move and I like the timing of when he took the quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, for sure. So great quarterback room, Dave. Great job in that aspect of your draft. But now we got to talk about those running backs. And I love DeAndre Swift. I might be the biggest DeAndre Swift fan on the face of this planet. I had him as my RB1 even over Jonathan Taylor, however many years ago that was. So always been a big DeAndre Swift fan. You got him at the tail end of the first round. That's perfect. I think that is fantastic. DeAndre Swift as an RB1, he's great to have. But the depth of this running back room kind of scares me. I won't lie to you. I won't sugarcoat it, because we just talked about it in the video that we released a couple of days ago, right? Where Brian Robinson was on the rise. And I like that you did get Brian Robinson later on to offset it with Antonio Gibson. But this could turn into one of those situations where neither one of them is particularly an every week RB2, right? Like, we don't know what the situation is going to look like. I don't mind having Gibson as your RB2, especially since you do have Brian Robinson to back him up. But this is a potential headache waiting to happen, because we just don't know what's going to happen with the backfield in Washington. Tyler, so knowing DeAndre Swift is the RB1 on this team, how do you feel about Gibson being the RB2? Because, like I said, I love that he did get Brian Robinson to back him up. I think that does offer a lot of utility in this RB room, but I'm still kind of nervous about it.
Yeah, there's probably a handful of guys I probably would have liked over Antonio Gibson. But that being said, I mean, I've said it 1,000 times. If I'm going to be weak anywhere, it's going to be at that RB2 spot. I would much rather rely on my receivers. And Antonio Gibson, there's a chance he could be holding his own there as an RB2, as probably a low-end RB2 with what we think Brian Robinson's going to come in and do. But, I mean, the insurance policy long-term makes me feel a lot more comfortable with it. As far as this year goes, I mean, yeah, it's going to be yet to be seen. I mean, we could see an entirely split backfield, but if one of them ends up pulling away from the other, then, I mean, I guess he's just totally invested in the Washington backfield, right? It's not necessarily a backfield that I'm chasing, but I mean, if it's going to be for my RB2 and I'm going to end up with a guy who's going to get a lion's share of carries in an offense as an RB2, I'm going to be comfortable with it. And I mean, even for this year, I mean, Chase Edmonds has been incredibly efficient, and we've never really seen him in a starting role to get like the lion's share of the carries, and he could be something this year, right, to hold him over and until that time. So yeah, that's as how I feel. You know how I felt about Marlon Mack, but with the new, I mean, I don't know when he took Marlon Mack. I know it was like an 8-hour clock, so it could have been before all the Dameon Pierce news and all that. But yeah, it's not terrible depth, but it could have been better. It could have been more invested. When I look at some other spots on the roster, I might be convinced that I would have rather spent those roster spots on running backs, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, and I was going to bring that up too. One of the popular things, at least on this channel, that you and I both do whenever we have those mock drafts, the last like 4 or 5 rounds, we each take minimum 3 back end dart throw running backs, right? Just because RB is the most volatile position in all of fantasy football, and it's also the most valuable position in fantasy football in these 1 QB leagues. So I would definitely have liked to see a bit more depth here. That being said, I didn't get a chance to touch base on Chase Edmonds. Everyone and their mother knows I'm a massive Chase Edmonds fan. I think that he can be, at the very least, a low-end RB2 this year. So I think between Edmonds and Gibson, you are going to have your weekly RB2. It's just going to be a matter of, okay, well, who do I start this week? So your running back room, I like it. I don't love it. DeAndre Swift, I love. Chase Edmonds, I love where you got him. It's just I would have liked to see more than you got 20 roster spots. I would have liked to see maybe one or 2 less tight ends and probably 1 or 2 more running backs on this roster.
Yeah, the one thing that entirely skipped over really is DeAndre Swift, because it's kind of just like taken for granted, like how great he is when he's on the field. But I mean, that's going to make up for whatever you might lack out of Antonio Gibson and Chase Edmonds. So, I mean, he could end up with the RB4 and the RB, 24, 25 this year, and that would probably produce the same amount of points as, getting both the RB11 and 12, or somewhere similar. So, yeah, I'm good with it.
That's a fair point to make. I think Swift could break out and be a top 5 running back this year, and I don't think anyone would be surprised about that. But before we move on to the receivers, I do have to mention the only other thing that makes me nervous is this is only DeAndre Swift's 3rd season in the NFL, but we haven't seen a fully healthy season from him yet. So that's just another reason why I probably would have gone with one or two more depth running backs, because if everything goes well, Swift is healthy for 17 games and we're all doing a happy dance at the end of the year, right? But stranger things have happened. I don't know if we will see him play a full 17 games. I don't want to say he's undersized, but with his injury history, you could expect probably 2 to 4 games that you're not going to have him this year. But we're not going to pretend to be doctors on this channel. I can't predict injuries. Tyler, I know you can't predict injuries. So we'll just see what happens.
Not unless it's CMC.
No. I'm predicting let's see, 17 healthy games for him in the regular season, and then 3 healthy games for him in the postseason when the Panthers go 17-0 and then win the Super Bowl. It'll be great. You just wait on it.
Wow, the first ever undefeated season after a 17-game season. That would be something. That would be something.
Oh, dude, easily. We got Baker, we got Christian, we got DJ Moore, we got like one of the best young defenses in the league. Forget about it. Anyway, moving on to the receivers, because he has DJ Moore, and it's a good segue because I was just talking about the Panthers. DK Metcalf and DJ Moore is your wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. It's good. It's definitely good. It makes me, I don't want to say nervous, because I'm not nervous if I have Metcalf and DJ Moore, but both of them have situational question marks this year. And while both of them have upside through the roof, I mean, DJ Moore, he's consistently getting 1,100 yards or more. DK Metcalf, he's been a top 15 wide receiver, as we've all known in Dynasty since he entered the league. But it's Drew Lock or Geno Smith is now thrown to DK instead of Russell Wilson. That's a big downgrade. The Seahawks are just trending down altogether, right? They're kind of always up and down in their trajectory, and they're definitely heading down right now. So what that means for DK, I don't think we're going to know for at least another few weeks until the season starts. And then DJ Moore, yeah, my biased opinion, I love Baker Mayfield. I think the Panthers are going to be great this year. But if I'm giving an unbiased opinion, it's another quarterback change for DJ Moore. Last year it was Sam Darnold. The year before it was Teddy Bridgewater. The year before it was Cam Newton. Like, DJ Moore hasn't had the opportunity to build sustained chemistry with a quarterback. And it's still going to take a little while for him and Baker Mayfield to really click like that, right? So I think DJ Moore is going to be good this year. I think that he has probably the best quarterback throwing to him that he's had in recent memory, because, when Cam Newton was throwing to him, it was not the Cam that was MVP in 2015. So it's just it's a good dynasty pairing, but it's a risky 1-2 punch for 2022.
Yeah, I entirely agree with you. Seattle's going to have to make a big investment in quarterback and the offensive line as well really soon. DK just got extended there long term. Not your favorite thing to see your dynasty wide receiver get locked into a currently bad situation, but I mean, Seattle's been a smart organization for a long time, and we can assume that they're going after a quarterback in next year's draft. But as far as DJ Moore goes, like you said, it's kind of a safe pairing, right? If DJ Moore, I think he probably finishes in the top 20 receivers this year. I think that's pretty safe to say. He's going to get an improvement in quarterback. Baker Mayfield has been far and away the better quarterback than Sam Darnold, so we know he's getting an improvement, and hopefully he just finds the end zone more. It's worrisome because Christian McCaffrey is so dominant, and we expect him to be back and healthy and explode again and take the league by storm and be the RB1 again, right? But and I mean, a lot of that comes from the receiving game, right? I don't even have to say that, but I mean, just for kicks, right? But yeah, I mean, I like the pairing there. But then when you roll down to Rashad Bateman, Allen Robinson, I think there's a lot of upside to be had there. And it wouldn't surprise me if Allen Robinson was the highest scoring receiver on this roster for this year. And I don't think Rashad Bateman might finish pretty close behind. So other than that, I mean, I don't know how many players he has to start in this league. I mean, if he can start more than 4 receivers, I would have probably liked to see more.
There's 2 flex positions. It's non-super flex, right? 2 flex positions. So he can start 4 wide receivers. As of right now, he does have Bateman and Allen Robinson penciled into those flex 1 and flex 2 spots, which I do like a lot. I agree with you. I love calling you out for outlandish takes, but saying Allen Robinson could be the top scoring wide receiver on this team, I really don't think it's that outlandish, right? I mean, he's in the best situation. We've seen Allen Robinson put up multiple top 10 seasons before. So why not? You know, he could step into that wide receiver 2 role in LA. And you and I have been saying this all off season, right? Allen Robinson is poised for a massive bounce back year. So where you got him, it looks like he was drafted at 804, which I think is actually pretty decent value for him at that point. You know, you get your flex 2 spot. He's only 28 years old. I mean, he's the same age as like a guy like Stephon Diggs, right? Or he's a year younger than Devontae Adams. So it's not like he's hitting an age cliff in the next year or two. Like it's not just hitting a wall. So there's a lot of upside to have there. And then Rashad Bateman, small sample size, but he looked good in Baltimore last year. Right now, he's taken over the wide receiver 1 role with Marquise Brown out of there. Couldn't even tell you who the wide receiver 2 is going to be in Baltimore, right? So as far as I know, it's just going to be Mark Andrews and Bateman soaking up all the targets, which we'll get into Mark Andrews in a little bit here. But this wide receiver room, this top 4 unit, it is good. It is good. Like I said, having Metcalf and Moore as your 1-2 punch in 2022 kind of makes me nervous. But overall, I think these 4 starters, it's pretty well rounded.
Yeah, he could very well finish this year with 4 top 24 guys in that receiving room. I just worry because I feel like as I look at the receiving room and then as I look at the running back room, I feel like it's just one solid guy short, you know, like one guy that I'd feel comfortable starting with, like, because there's going to be 4 games this year. 4 games is pretty important, where you're going to have to either start Rondale Moore, John Mechie, KJ Osborne, Amari Rogers, or, you know, one of your lower end running backs. And I'm not excited about that. I'm hoping that maybe death by 1,000 cuts and the advantages you might have with Mark Andrews and Trey Lance might make up for that and DeAndre Swift, you know. But yeah, I mean it's really solid. It's really solid. You know, this team, I wouldn't do much to change this team. There's not many pieces on this team that I'm really looking to move right now, other than maybe the combo of that Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. If someone could give me a Josh Jacobs and another piece for that, like a second or something like that, like I think I'd probably take that one all day. But yeah, I mean, I wish I had one more like depth receiver that I would just feel comfortable slotting in on my bye weeks.
Yeah, I agree because we haven't seen enough out of Rondale Moore yet to really. I mean, I wouldn't feel comfortable putting him in my roster, my starting roster at any point right now, right? Because we've seen small sample sizes of him doing some cool shit last year, but for the most part, I mean, Rondale Moore kind of looked more like a bust than anything last year, right? But there's only 1 year. Kyler Murray was wildly inconsistent last year. Hopkins was hurt. You know, the whole off kind of weird certain weeks. So we'll see what happens. I will say before we move on to the tight ends, I like KJ Osborne a lot. You got him at 1608, which I think is pretty good value. He's a good flyer. KJ Osborne stepped up when Adam Thielen was out last year and actually put up half decent numbers. I think he was technically a top 50 wide receiver in PPR leagues last year. And he's very obviously behind Justin Jefferson in the depth chart, very obviously behind a healthy Adam Thielen on the depth chart. But KJ Osborne's going to act as their wide receiver 3. And I would not be the least bit surprised to see them use him a lot out of the slot. Or, you know, obviously this is a team that's going to be kind of air raid this year. So I think there's just going to be a lot of 3 receiver sets anyway. So I think Osborne's going to see a lot of time. And I think that he is definitely going to outplay his ADP of the 1608. And I don't know if this is a bold prediction or not, but I would say you'll be able to have more serviceable weeks from KJ Osborne than you will from Rondale Moore. So I do really like that pick towards the end of the draft.
Yeah, and you know, Adam Thielen's getting old too. So who's going to take over that role? I mean, if KJ Osborne can prove himself, which I think he's already starting to, and he might see more opportunities. We expect more opportunities out of that Vikings offense. That's what we've heard all offseason, right? So yeah, I do like that. He as a long-term play, especially, definitely a stash guy late in the draft. Yeah, I love it.
So now we can look at the tight end room, and I'm going to give you supreme praise, but I'm also going to be upset with you at the same time. Supreme praise, Mark Andrews, right? I love Mark Andrews. He is I mean, you got him at the 204. I think that's perfectly fine. That's about where I would take him. Honestly, I would even take him as early as 201 or 202, depending on who's on the board. So big Mark Andrews guy here. It is a supreme advantage to have a guy like Mark Andrews or Kyle Pitts or Travis Kelce on your team. And Mark Andrews is the dynasty TE1 for me. And I know that's not a popular opinion because a lot of people give that title to Kyle Pitts, but Mark Andrews, he is the combination of Travis Kelce's production, but also the youth, right? Kyle Pitts, he's only 22 years old, but last year, even if he had 1 touchdown, right? But even if he scored 5 touchdowns, I think he would have only been like the TE8 or TE9. It really wouldn't have improved his situation too much, right? Because it was a rookie tight end season, a really, really, really awesome rookie tight end season. But I think people are trying to expect Travis Kelce level of play from Kyle Pitts, and it's still too early in his career. Like, I don't care how good of an athlete he is. The tight end position is arguably the hardest position to play in the NFL. It's the hardest one to adapt to at the pro level. So it's going to take him a little while to really adapt to it. Mark Andrews, he's just the perfect well-rounded tight end, right? He's 6 years younger than Travis Kelce, but he's actually outproducing Travis Kelce. And Kelce is like the gold standard of tight ends. So in my opinion, you got the dynasty TE1 here, and that's perfect. Here's where I'm going to ream you a bit. You don't need 4 tight ends on your roster if you're going to take Mark Andrews in the second round. If you're going to take Mark Andrews in the second round, the only thing that I would have done, I really like Brevin Jordan. Looks like you got him pick 2004. That's perfect, right? He's kind of a flyer, but realistically, unless Mark Andrews gets hurt, there was 1 week of the entire season where Mark Andrews is not in your lineup and one of these other tight ends is. So in my opinion, you could have gone either Jelani or Brevin Jordan if you wanted some of the youth upside there. This is kind of what I was alluding to when we were talking about the running back room. I don't think there was a need to take 2 additional tight ends. I think you should have taken 2 more running backs, or at least 1 running back and 1 wide receiver. So that's just my lesson, is if you're going to take the positional advantage of a tight end in one of the first couple of rounds, you don't need a super deep room like this.
Yeah, you took everything I've been planning on saying like the whole time. Like, I'm not really going to compound much on top of it.
Sorry, I got a little carried away there. I took some.
No, no. I mean, it was like I feel like it was kind of obvious points that we were kind of like alluding to throughout the video. But yeah, like kind of we talked about it before. Like, you don't need more than 2 quarterbacks in a 1 quarterback league. You don't need more than 2 tight ends in almost any league, unless it's like a crazy 2 point or like 2.5 point tight end premium league, right? If I'm you, I'm trying to get any value I can out of Evan Ingram and Jelani Woods. If I can throw that combination, maybe like a 3rd round pick to go get Melvin Gordon or another depth receiver, and really turn this into a team that I'm going to feel confident with, like saying I'm a guy who can win this league this year. That's the move I want to make. This team is just one piece away, and they're only depth pieces away, right? Like, you don't need like a huge stud really to make this an awesome team. You really just need a couple depth pieces. So if you can move the combination of those guys and a late round rookie pick for some depth guys, then I'm all about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a team that is definitely a legitimate contender. I would say on the cusp of probably being a solidified top 2, top 3 team in a league. It's just the depth is kind of killing you, right? God forbid there's an injury to DK or an injury to DeAndre Swift or an injury to Mark Andrews. I mean, it's obviously if any of those guys goes down, it's going to ruin a lot of people's hopes, right? In fantasy of 2022. But I would just err on the side of caution, just knowing that that's a possibility. Now, with that being said, I mean, if Trey Lance does what we think he can do and become this year's Jalen Hurts, that's a league winner right there. DeAndre Swift could break out and be a top 5 running back this year. That's a league winner right there. If Antonio Gibson, if all of the shit about him is totally overhyped right now, and he comes back and repeats as a top 15, top 16 running back, that's a league winner right there. DK, DJ Moore, Rashad Bateman, Allen Robinson, Tyler, like you said, these guys, it's realistic to say that all 4 of these guys could finish as top 24 wide receivers on the year. And then Mark Andrews is locked to be a top 3 tight end. Like, this is a really, really good team. I would have just liked to see the depth built a little bit differently. It's kind of nitpicky, I know, but the purpose of these videos is to give the complete unbiased opinion on every single thing with this. So overall, and Ty, feel free to disagree with me, I would give this roster an A. You know, I'm assuming that because it didn't look like many trades had happened, right? So I'm assuming you still have all of your rookie picks. You have a lot of room to do things with. And yeah, I would give this roster an A.
If I'm not at an A, I'm really close. I feel like I want to save my A's for like those top two teams in the league. Like I'm really confident in. But that being said, I mean, this is a team that I might move a 2023 first for to go out and get a really a stud. I mean, if you can find someone who will give you Dalvin Cook for your first round pick next year, I mean, have at it. You know what I mean? Like I'm taking that all day long, and I'm running into the playoffs and enjoying it. But one of the things that I really do love about this team, though, is how long like the window is going to be open for him. You know, the only player that he's really relying on that's even older than what 26 it looks like is Allen Robinson, and he's still got a couple of years left in a really good situation. So I mean, you set yourself up for a really good future and a really strong team that you're going to be able to, you know, send your first round pick away and then sneak in and find other people's first round picks as your guys get older and just constantly recycle this team. You set yourself up really, really well for the long run. And the really good thing is that you're not far away from being a team that is going to end up in the championship this year. I mean, if you go out and make those investments and make those moves, then you can easily go out and get the money this year. And I'm all about it. I mean, screw rookie picks. If you can go out and get the money, you know. I mean, like as much as we love the 2023 class, I'm definitely taking a championship over the 111, a 110, a 109. You know, give it to me all the time. You really can't have a roster like this and hold on near and dear to your heart for your first round pick when you have the opportunity to go out and win.
Yeah, and I like that you kind of pointed out go after a guy like Dalvin Cook, or you know, if you want to go receiver, well, you can only start four receivers, so you know, I digress here. But you could go after those undervalued studs like Mike Evans or Keenan Allen, or even Chris Godwin is still being underrated, right? And Cook, Nick Chubb, Alvin Kamara, potentially Derrick Henry. Like you can settle for a guy that's quote unquote over the age cliff, and it'll really transform this roster into that, you know, arguably top one or top two team in this league. I do agree with you though, Ty. I probably would go for a running back instead of over a wide receiver just because you are a bit more deep at the wide receiver position right now. But hey, either way you can swing it. I mean, you're gonna plug one of those guys into your starting lineup. So yeah, I'm very Dave, I'm very interested to track the progress on this team. I want weekly updates because I want to see how your record's looking. Obviously, and you know what? Speaking of buying, I think you could wait, right? Like I think you could go into the season with this team because if either Gibson or Edmonds pans out and the rest of the guys just do what we think they're gonna do, it's going to turn out just fine for you. And by the midway point of the season, you're going to have guys in your league that think they're contending, realize that they're not actually contenders. And those are the guys that you can buy assets off of kind of cheap, cheaper than market price, I should say, midway through the season. So I would go into the season with this team guns blazing, see where it takes you. I would imagine by week 6, you know, this is at least 4 wins by week 6. Looking at this team, I think you're going to be in a pretty solid spot by the midway point. So don't make any rash decisions now, but just know that it's very well in the range of possibilities that you are going to need to make some moves at some point this season.
Yeah, and I like that you made that point, right? Because patience is definitely going to be a virtue here. There's no need to hit the panic button at all. I would wait to almost, if especially if you're going to go buy a running back, right? I mean, granted, if let's say Rashad Bateman duds out or DJ Moore, I don't know, falls off a cliff or something, who knows, right? If something bad happens to your receiver, maybe you want to go out and spend it on a receiver. If you're going to spend it on a running back, though, you want a guy who's going to be healthy for the playoffs, right? I mean, it doesn't matter how good your regular season record is if they're not going to be healthy for the playoffs. So wait as almost as close to the trade deadline as you can to get a deal done, so you know you're going to be confident in that running back like moving forward and throughout the season.
Definitely. So yeah, Dave, thanks so much for submitting this team. We always have a lot of fun doing these subscriber submission videos, and even more fun when we actually, get a really good team to look at. A lot of interesting players with a lot to talk about, honestly, especially around, your Antonio Gibsons, Brian Robinson, Allen Robinson. He's got all the Robinsons here. So yeah, I mean, really, really nicely done in this draft. There's a couple of guys that, have mine and or Tyler's hearts. So hopefully we kind of influence this a little bit. I have a sneaking suspicion maybe we did a bit. If we didn't, hey, screw us, whatever. It's cool. But we appreciate you for watching. We appreciate you for subscribing, and definitely appreciate you being an active member in the Discord. That's awesome. So I kind of alluded to this at the beginning of the video, but if you are watching and your name is not Dave Doran, I'm sorry if I said that wrong. And you have a team
or
that
Kevin Keats. Or Kevin Keats. This guy's got like 2 phones or something.
yeah. Yeah, he's got 2 different names in the Discord. But if you're not Dave Doran or Kevin Keats, whoever you are, and you have a team that you want us to take a look at, like I said, join our Discord, pop it in there. We'll give you some commentary straight off the bat, and chances are we'll make a video out of it.
Yeah, we really appreciate you, Dave, and all the support. And we really do have a good time talking to you in the Discord. So definitely catch you there soon, buddy.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to do it for us here today on That Dynasty Show. So, as always, for myself, for Tyler, and for That Dynasty Show, we will see you next time.